Hello and welcome to the big fight, and that's exactly what's happening right now between the opposition and the government. It's a fight to the extent that it seems to have virtually brought the country, if not the country, then certainly Parliament, to a complete standstill. The opposition says the government's in the wrong and it's a really weak government and the government's done all sorts of terrible things and should therefore the Prime Minister should resign, Law Minister should resign, and a lot of other people as well. The government seems to be saying that the Parliament should be allowed to function, and it's the opposition which is playing the role of a disruptive force. And the rest of the country says we just wish somehow we would get slightly better governance. So is it a weak government? Is it a disruptive opposition? Is it a bit of both? And how can we actually get our systems into some sort of functioning order? And if not systems in general, how can we at least get Parliament into a slightly more functional order? That's what we're going to be debating today on The Big Fight, and we have a fantastic panel to do that. I'm going to start by welcoming Nick Gowing, main presenter, BBC World News. Nick, it's fantastic to have you here in the Big Fight studio. This is parliamentary democracy. I'm sure at some point we'll find a way to blame the British for it. You left us with this. Why isn't it working better? Manishankar Iyer of the Congress Party, Rajya Sabha MP, thank you so much for being with us. Meenakshi Lekhi of the BJP. Both of you can tell why you think the other one is really at the cause of the problem. Vivek Tankha, former Additional Solicitor General of India, can tell us whether this is heading for a constitutional crisis, if it's not one already. Atul Kumar Anjan of the National Secretary of the Communist Party of India. It's fantastic to have you with us, Atul. We do have with us Chakshu Roy, Head of Outreach at PRS Legislative Research. A lot of research has been done by you on the functioning of Parliament, and I think your findings are that Parliament's doing really badly right now, especially in this session. Somebody who may or may not have ideas as to how to break the deadlock, Gaurav Bhatia, Head of the Legal Cell of the Samajwadi Party. And Simon Denyer, South Asia Bureau Chief of the Washington Post, who's writing a book on Indian democracy. But first, let's just get a word in from one of the most respected parliamentarians we have, somebody who has been the Speaker of the House, Somnath Chatterjee. Sir, it's a pleasure and an honor to have you joining us from Shanti Niketan. You must be deeply disturbed when you see what's happening in Parliament right now. No bills getting through, a weak government and a disruptive opposition.
Well, of course, a matter of greatest sorrow for the entire country, not for me only. You see, this is the very mirror of the country, and there are a lot of expectations and a lot of hopes and aspirations circling around the Parliament of India, the special Lok Sabha. And to find that for months and every session it's become non-functional, I don't know, people are asking and I can hardly answer, that what is the purpose of retaining the Parliament of India? So what else will be there? Who will look into this? Now who will make the laws? Who will discuss affairs of the people? You see, it has become the place of political confrontation, not for the service of the country. Now our politics has become so based on conflict between each other, only as a sort of methodology to come to power, not for service to the people. That is the greatest problem. And I don't know, you see, even in my book I have said many times it is decided beforehand the Parliament will not be allowed to function. I had felt during my tenure as Speaker that I wish my friends in the media completely blacked out any report of disruption, because that will not be paying. I was told by a very eminent member of the opposition, I won't name him, that आप काहे नाराज होता सर, पार्लियामेंट नहीं चलेगा तो हमारा नाम आएगा फ्रंट पेज में, और हमारा डिबेट होगा तो कोई छापता नहीं उसका. This is one section of the people who feels that, but the question is, it's a politics of appears to be, to put it very mildly, tit for tat. Whatever way you decide, you must be holding the Parliament to ransom. I don't know. You see, whether the government is weak or not.
The point I was trying to make is that, which I was actually wanting to ask you, is that, look, you can always figure out, is it the opposition to blame or the government to blame? Both say that the other one is responsible for the state of affairs. But given the present situation, is there any suggestion you would have as to how the basic legislative function of the country is allowed to proceed? How can we get bills through? Because if this continues, even after the next election, at some point, democracy is going to come to a standstill.
Yes, it has come to a standstill in a sense. And I don't know, even you have to enter into an arrangement with the opposition through the help of the Honorable Speaker to get the finance bill passed. It has happened in the past once or twice, but this cannot be the regular feature. Budget is the most important thing. Finance bill is the important thing. So I have always been feeling that instead of disruption, they can work out. The same purpose will be served, namely to show the protest on the part of the opposition, principled protest. Or you speak whatever you like, that will be on record. The present generation and the posterity will know for what reason they boycotted or disrupted the parliament or boycotted the parliament and what was the version of the opposition on given issues. Now, I'm not blaming A or B party or C party. It has become a disease which is now almost suffocating our parliamentary system. Why should we fight amongst ourselves like, what do I say, like that the country comes last in the order of priority?
Right,
country becomes irrelevant.
Right,
so
sir.
I'm very sorry to use
Somnath Da, it's always such a pleasure hearing from you. Thank you so much. And as I said, I wish you were here to be at the helm of affairs, especially in Parliament. I'm sure it would function a lot better. So thank you so much for having joined us.
Thank you very much. Wish you all the best. Thank you.
Perhaps I could start by asking you at this present point, Simon, is Indian democracy functioning in Parliament? Not a lot.
In Parliament, no, not very well. I mean, it's pretty obvious it's not functioning very well. And it's not just the disruption of Parliament. The criminal cases against so many MPs is another issue. But it isn't functioning well. There's a lot that's going right about Indian democracy, which I can talk about later. But this is, for me, the real weakness at the heart of Indian democracy that needs to be addressed.
That Parliament is not functioning.
The Parliament is not functioning as a forum for debate of the issues facing this country as it should be functioning.
Okay, Nick, before I come to all the people who are politicians, would you agree with that broad assessment? Is that the big problem that you see, or is it that whatever's happening in Parliament is really reflecting the issues that are outside, and as a result of that, it's okay if Parliament is not functioning?
I don't think it is okay if Parliament is not functioning. The people expect action. They expect to see developments. They expect to see at least some kind of consensus, even if there's disagreement. I think it's difficult, but it's not unique in global democracy.
It's not unique. Which other major global democracy actually has Parliament which doesn't do anything?
Not necessarily at the moment. We've seen it in Israel recently. It's taken a long time to make coalitions work there. We've seen it in the British Parliament. We've seen it in other parts of the world as well, particularly where there's coalition politics. And certainly in Britain, we may see that quite soon with an election which has to happen 2 years from now.
Okay. Manishankar Iyer, what do we do about the present situation? Now, it's clear that the government is finding itself in a spot. It's being indicted left, right and centre. The Supreme Court indictments are coming, others are coming. What happened with Colgate and so on and so forth. With a government which is not being able to function, is it, the opposition says you shouldn't be surprised if Parliament is therefore the place where the government is getting cornered. Is that what's happening right now?
The opposition needs to learn, which I thought was a self-evident lesson, but apparently they've forgotten it, that you can't bring down the government before TV channels. You can only bring it down on the floor of the House. And if there is in fact such a panoply of valid charges to make against the weakest and most useless government that has ever been, why not put it to them on the floor of the House? Why not challenge them on the floor of the House? Why not allow the good sense that they see themselves imbued with manifest itself on the floor of the House? What is achieved by this process of saying, we won't bring you down on the floor of the House, brackets, because we know we can't bring you down, and therefore we're not going to allow the House to function at all. If you'll just give me a minute, the first time I ever went into Parliament was as an 18-year-old boy, when the Congress had dismissed the first communist government in Kerala. And I saw Dange get up, Comrade Dange, and it was a brilliant speech in which he viciously attacked Jawaharlal Nehru, who was sitting opposite him, and ended the speech by taking an example from the Mahabharata and saying, just like Yudhishthira's chariot fell to the ground when he told a white lie, so has your chariot fallen to the ground. Do you think the Congress disrupted him? Do you think they didn't wait, listen to what he had to say, and then respond? Okay. So the place to challenge us with all our weaknesses is the floor of the House. And if they abandon the floor of the House, well, we'll be sitting pretty. Who gains? It's us. We don't have to answer any of these charges.